This Choircast podcast is brought to you by the Quantum Sayings of Jesus, Decoding the Lost Gospel of Thomas by Keith Giles, available now on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Buried around 340 AD, unearthed in 1945, and translated into English in 1959, the Gospel of Thomas has been studied, debated, and analyzed by dozens of scholars and historians searching for clues about the meaning of these cryptic sayings of Jesus. In the Quantum Sayings of Jesus, author Keith Giles offers a look at the text from the perspective of non-duality and divine oneness. Check it out on Amazon today.
Welcome to the Unbelief Podcast, your journey, actually our journey together beyond inherited beliefs to a spirituality that works for you. I'm your host, Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. We can fix that later, right? No? Damn. All right, so welcome to another Drinks and Deconstruction episode of the Unbelief Podcast. I get to do this one in person, which is really unusual, and I love that. I am having a drink with Rob. So, Rob, what are you drinking tonight?
We're having a little bit of Woodford Reserve bourbon.
Yes.
Neat. In a
Only
tiny
neat.
mason jar, just as God intended.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what I'm in for yet. But
Well, we're going to find out. The thing is that when people talk to me about these kinds of episodes, what they say is like, even a lot of them are in like different places. Like some of them come from different traditions, and they're like, what helps is to hear somebody else's story because it helps me process my own story.
fair, yeah.
Right. So I think I just want to start with like right now, when you think about spiritual beliefs or practices or whatever, what is working for you right now? And it might not be working for you tomorrow. It might not have worked yesterday, but like actually today, what feels true, right, helpful? Like what works for you right now?
What works for me, like in terms of my spirituality?
Your beliefs, your practices, whatever.
Okay. Firstly, I just want to say bear with me because I have undiagnosed and unmedicated ADHD and depression, definitely, and who knows what else.
Great. I have diagnosed and medicated, so we're good. We're good. No problem.
I heard my sweet dog whining outside the door over there, and it pulled my attention away. What works? I wish I knew what worked. I know what feels good.
That's what I mean.
Works is it's all very fluid,
sure.
day to day. So generally the way that I feel about these things is that, obviously I want to feel like I understand, God, the universe,
Right.
Great Spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But also I am this human thing that I am. And the only thing that I believe very, very firmly with my whole self is that if I, as this human thing, were capable of fully understanding it, fully knowing it,
Right.
it would not be God.
Yeah.
It would be dogma, it would be doctrine, it would be whatever, but it would not be God. I feel like recently the way that I feel about those things, like I believe there is a force, a power, a spirit, a something that
Right.
is beyond me.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel that entity is micromanaging or pulling any strings.
Right.
And I also feel like maybe a good way to conceive of it as like a collective consciousness, or I like to think that, you know, it is everywhere and in everyone, and we all have we all have the capacity and a part of it that is a part of our nature.
Yeah.
And we can, you know, it's
no, that's right. You're doing a great job.
I want to speak intelligently about how I really feel about it, but I so seldom get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because what I've found is that a lot of folks think that they're really open-minded and ready to have a discussion about these things until you challenge their worldview, and then all of a sudden it's a really, really ugly conversation, and it's not a conversation anymore, it's a fight. So I haven't had a lot of practice trying to like articulate it, but I feel like we all have a godlike nature within us, and when if we can like sort of tap into that, you know, not to behave in any particular sort of way, but maybe a good parallel is to be like, you know, like feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit, or you know, just listening to your body, or, you know, treating others the way we'd like to be treated. Like when we are our best selves, like I feel like we are closer to God. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So like I hear you talking about like this sense of there's something else. It's got to be bigger than me. Like it's got to be bigger than I can fully know. Because if I can fully know it, it's not that big.
Not divine,
right? It can be conceived. And there's some sort of echo part, whatever, inside everybody, right? Is that what am I reading this right?
I think we are as much a part of God as God is a part of us. It, you know, maybe God's an electron. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but I find it like if you look at the natural world,
right,
and like all of the beauty and awe and wonder in the natural world, the madness that is this meat machine we inhabit. There's something more, like there's something more to what we are than just what we can measure and study with our like human size.
For sure.
And we can maybe get into like why it is that I believe that, but I do definitely believe that we have some sort of, you know, some sort of spirit that comes along with that, a soul or whatever.
Right.
However, it's not something that we're able or capable of like quantifying at this time.
Right.
Or measuring necessarily. I think attempts have been made with like, you know, the idea of like the soul weighing 21 grams,
right?
Or,
yeah,
you know, these things. I don't know if you talked about this, but
so that's like beliefs, right? Mm-hmm. What about practices? Like right now, where is it that you feel like a place, a space, something you do that you feel like, oh yeah, every once in a while, or maybe regularly, I don't know, like when I'm there or when I'm doing that, I experience God, the universe, transcendence.
I've been very what's the right word for it? I haven't been regular about any particular practice lately.
Right.
One of my favorite things to do, and I do go to church from time to time with my partner, and I do get something out of that when I go where I've been recent. But what I really like to do is just get up very early and just sit quietly.
Yeah.
It, kind of have some meditation, try and stay off the phone for a little while, or go for, one of the things I really like to do is go for, like a hike or a walk in a park or something like that with my dog. Just go out there, and at most I will pick out like a nice album to listen to or cool. something, but no, no podcast or otherwise. Like the phone is on silent, and I'm just noticing what's around me, kind of walking meditation, being present, kind of taking it in and noticing what she's noticing, appreciating, the little birds and the mosses and the, the trees and the art that sometimes is in, parks and different things like that. And just trying to, just kind of absorb the world around me, and not necessarily take some time away from the chaos that is my brain.
For sure. I know, like for me, a lot of times, if I can, there's this one experience where, and I don't know the meteorology of all this, but if I'm up at the right time on the right day, there will be this like low-lying fog mist. I don't know what it is about that. Like at night, it feels like I'm in a horror movie when I'm driving, but if it's in the morning.
Early morning.
If I was in the morning.
Dew's burning off.
Yeah, it's like magic. It's like God is like, I don't know. Okay, so that's cool. So that's a really brilliant practice. I love this idea of like a walk and the dog. And like, I don't know, there's something beautiful about almost like the dog is showing you where God is, like showing you what to notice, be aware of. I love that. But let's
lately it's been rough lately. So a lot of it lately has just been, I get up early and I sit on the back porch and I watch the chickens.
Sure. Oh yeah.
I haven't had a lot of means recently.
Yeah.
And that creates its own stress, but I love sitting on the back porch, especially early in the morning, let the ladies out of their coop, say hello, say good morning, and just watch them do their thing.
So
centering.
Did you grow up in church?
Yes.
Are you up for telling us what stream of Christianity?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was what kind of church was it? What brand?
From the moment I was born until I was old enough to drive a car, I attended the Southern Baptist Church in my very small, like rural hometown in Alabama.
Okay, so here's what you just described as your beliefs and practices are a long way from what that's. So I wonder, when you think back, like when you just sort of rewind in your head, where did it start to unravel?
Where did it start to unravel? Okay, I can tell you exactly.
Okay.
So I was never very keen on the church thing.
Yeah.
I had a moment, and keep in mind, up until the point I say I left, like you'll know this is all, I mean, just the most Southern Baptist church.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a moment when I was about 9 years old that we had like a weekend where all the kids went away to like a camp, and we had some we had, and it's funny to me now that I think about that we went to this beautiful place out in the woods.
Right on the woods,
right,
exactly
right?
like you're like practice right now.
And we're at this old rundown like camp facility. It wasn't Camp Mobilla, but it was a place like that. And there was a pool, and I'm surrounded by kids my age, and we had fun like crafts to do, and you know they brought people in to cook for us, and we sat around at these like wooden tables in this big like, it was an enormous area where we're all seated outside, and there's a big, you know, screen kind of porch, and that's where we'd have our meals and things. And something there really touched me, and it was always something that I'd been pushed to do. And I remember feeling like super close to Southern Baptist Jesus, and feeling like, okay, Mom's been on my case about this for a long time. I want to get baptized. And that was like, that was probably the closest to the ideal, like, Southern Baptist boy I ever was. It was like that moment, that weekend, that retreat. I got a little bit older, maybe when I was, it was around 12. So maybe I was 6th grade or so.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really want to talk shit about, you know, the SBC necessarily.
No, that's fine.
I could get into all the reasons why I don't think they're great, but I don't think that's really necessary. The thing is,
but for you, like,
the thing is,
what happened with you?
When I was young, we had a lovely pastor. His daughter was the exact same age as my sister. They were good buddies, so we knew each
Older
other.
Sister?
My younger sister.
Okay.
They were in the same grade in school. We were family friends. He was our pastor. It was pretty good sized church. But they were just genuinely good people. And I'm still in touch with him somewhat to this day. I tracked him down and found him where he's at now. But so when I was in 6th grade, about 12 years old, there was I'm trying to think for context, that would be 1999.
Okay, cool.
So there was like this strange split in the church congregation.
Okay, right.
And there were some people, and I can't confirm this. I was told they were like a Calvinist sect. I'm not even entirely sure what that means.
Whatever that means.
Dude,
somebody told a 12-year-old boy there was a Calvinist sect.
So there was...
Cheers for the Calvinists.
Sure. The point is, there was infighting in the church. I don't know why it started, and I don't care.
Right. No, you're 12 years old, right?
Because Brother Gary is a good dude.
Right.
And what they did is they dug up some charge, an alleged charge, that when he was 19 years old, someone claimed he was jerking off in a theater or something.
Oh, geez.
And he wasn't convicted.
All right.
You know,
just some random thing they got found somebody say, right?
They used this to set the entire town against him and his family, and they had to pack. Like, not only did he lose his job at the church, his whole family had to pack up and move away.
Yeah.
Away.
Oh, jeez.
And
so what? How does it? What does 12? What does that do inside 12-year-old Rob? Like what happens inside you when you see that? I mean, like, that's a big deal because you guys were close.
So my life in that church was like this. I'm listening to all the stuff that they're saying, and I'm trying my best to do it. I'm trying my best to live it. My mom somehow was really good at it. My dad wasn't really as into it, but he generally, you know, behaved himself or stayed away from it. that was the church that we went to, and that was what we did. I participated in all the, the vacation Bible school programs that still traumatize me to this day. I did all the things.
But did they show you like Rapture movies and stuff?
Well, but I wasn't a really popular kid. Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Rapture movies, all that kind of good stuff. Yeah. I wasn't a very popular kid, and that didn't change when I was inside the church. Oh. When I was there on Wednesday, when I was there on Sunday, I was still the outcast. And so all of these things are adding up to me. Yeah. And then I see this happen to our pastor and our friends. And I essentially, we had this big dinner at, and people who still believed in him, still cared about him. There were probably 15 families and their kids, and we all had a big dinner to say goodbye before they left town. Yeah. And people kind of had their turn to go around and say anything nice that they felt like they needed to say. And I can't remember what I said, but I actually spoke up for him. Wow. And I just cried in front of all these people as this kid. And I'm saying look, I don't know what you did or didn't do, and I don't care. Because you guys have taught me about forgiveness and what it means to be Christian, and the way these people are behaving and the way these people are treating you is not the way that it's not what you deserve, and it's not right. Based on everything I know up to this point, it's not okay, and I'm so sorry that this stuff has happened to you. And I made that man cry, but of course, but it was just, I had no love for that church from that point on. Yeah. And but I wasn't allowed to not go. Right. No, for sure. Yeah. This is Alabama. This is Southern Baptist Church in Alabama. You're going. Well, my mother, I loved her dearly, but, so much of my life was defined by what other people might think about her, or her family. Yep. If I wasn't doing all the things that, if I wasn't, it was a lot of keeping up appearances, a lot of what would so and so think. Right. That's the way she lived her entire life. And how did that affect you? I'm curious. So you sort of have a falling out with the whole church, whole idea. It sounds like, and then would you say you're sort of traumatized by that experience? Is that an accurate level of explanation of that? As a kid, there are a lot of things about that church that I've had to unlearn. Some of the things that still bother me to this day have more to do with the vacation Bible school productions and things that I was forced to participate in. Right. I think what were those? Oh boy, if you want to go for a ride, go for it. I found it on YouTube once before. Maybe it's still on there. I played the lead role in a vacation Bible school program called We Like Sheep. Okay. And the lead role is Grimy. Grimy is a black sheep, nonconformist. Okay. The best analog for Jesus of Nazareth in the entirety of We Like Sheep. Right. But over the course of this sing-song play, this little musical, Grimy learns to fall in line with the other sheep. Oh, and my gosh. It is an amazing work of some brainwashing nonsense. Yeah, no, for sure. Jeez. And again, making clones out of everybody. I would not participate in these programs at all. Yeah. If I had a choice. Right. And you were Grimy. Yes. You were and you just said you were the outcast when you got there. So this story is I was double screwed up that they put you as the outcast in a show that the point is that the outcast has to act like everybody else. That is, it's messed up. It's gnarly, man. I found an entire video, like hour and a half long video of the whole production.
Oh my
It's not
gosh.
great quality, but I found it on YouTube before and started to watch it, and I made it about 15 minutes in, and I was like, nope, I can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
if I could show it to someone else and maybe like laugh about it and we could drink our way through it, maybe, but like, I'm not doing that to myself.
So
No,
it's interesting because like you've got this story. Like obviously, there's lots of crap you went through, but you talk about like it starts unraveling when the pastor leaves. There's all that stuff, but you have to keep going. You're going to keep being traumatized by all this different stuff, and you're like forced to continue to go to this place that has hurt you over and over again. And then at some point, you don't have to go anymore. When was that?
So once you get into high school, and then you're even more, so at least in my case, I was even more of an outcast. I was probably considered a threat. And I say that because as we turn 16, 17, we have access to our own vehicles.
Right.
It's a small rural town.
Yep.
Most of my peers are going out into the woods on the weekend and getting drunk or just driving their trucks in circles in the mud or whatever it is they're doing. And I never participated in any of that.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything on me.
Yeah.
So they didn't talk to me in church anymore.
Oh, wow.
And it's hyper important to be present on Wednesday and to be present on Sunday and to keep up appearances during these very specific time frames. But during the week, nobody's living like that.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just like, okay, this is just mass scale hypocrisy, and it's stupid, and I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I made a deal with my mother.
Okay.
And she said, okay, well, you can drive yourself around if you think you can do better. Like, it's fine, but you have to go to church. I don't care where you go to church, but you have to go to church.
Okay.
You don't have to go on Wednesday, but every Sunday I need you to go to church.
Somewhere.
And you can go anywhere you want.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about it, and you're going to go to church.
Okay.
I'm like, okay.
Well, it's like I don't know. As I know a lot of Southern Baptists. I know a lot of Southern Baptist moms over the years. And as far as Southern Baptist moms go, that's pretty
progressive.
Big step. Right? So so you obviously you can take her up on it. Where did you end up?
I think she just really wanted me to be in church, and that was her.
Oh, of course. She loved you. She believes in all of it. She thinks you're going to go to hell if you don't go. Where did you end up? Where'd you go?
So the next place that I went was another Baptist church.
Of course. Well, I mean,
shocker of all shocker, like in a tiny town.
Right.
Like, listen, my graduating class was 104 people.
Right.
There are 5 Baptist churches in that town.
You did not have any churches that were having drag shows.
No.
Right.
No. Blue Law's Dry County.
Right.
Because why would we sell alcohol here when 50% of the population can drive across the county line, pay taxes in another county, and then drive, finish the first 6-pack before they even get back home.
Right. Yeah.
Silly things like that. The first place I went was a different Southern Baptist church, and the main reason was that more of my actual friends, people that I actually associated with on the day-to-day in school and things like that were going there.
Right.
And I enjoyed that for a year or so. But like they got rid of the youth minister that I didn't hate. Like, he was weird.
He was weird.
He was weird.
But you didn't hate him.
But I didn't hate him. Like, he wasn't, and it wasn't anything nefarious. It wasn't anything like big and explosive like the previous.
They just wanted 1,000 youth there in that small town, and he only could get 20.
I don't know, man. He probably wanted to be paid more or something. I have no idea.
Fair.
As I've gotten older and learned more about how a lot of these different denominations hire their youth personnel, I'm just happy that I escaped with the drama I've got. And so I left there, like a bunch of my friends had left there when that youth pastor left. And so then, like, still, I have to go to church. I tried the nearby Pentecostal church.
All right.
And that was interesting.
Yeah, I bet that was a whole different thing.
It was culture shock for real.
Yeah.
Because they do at this particular church, they do the the denim skirts and
oh wow,
and,
so that kind of
like,
Pentecostal. Not the like
they did
falling down Pentecostal, but like the
but snake handling.
right.
Like,
long hair,
speaking in
skirts.
tongues, like, the first time that we bowed our heads to pray and people are just making these insidious whispering sounds. Mm-hmm. And, I'm 17 years old.
Right. You've never experienced that.
I'm 17 years old, but I've read the text about the gift of tongues. And like what it says to my memory is that only one person's going to be speaking in tongues at any given time. And God's going to provide you with an interpreter. Right. So
like a good Southern Baptist, but then, you had that.
No. Like right. I had that much in my head. But we all go to bow our heads and literally you hear like 50 to 85 people just going like that was the thing they were taught to do. It was very weird. I got kicked out of that church. Because and it's funny, like I'm not proud that I got kicked out of that church. It's just one of the more, it's not the most disgusting thing that I ended up learning about that church. So right. Never mind. There was a youth event. We were all like outside and there was like, okay, so there's a basketball hoop. There's a ping pong table. There's some video games. We're going to have some food later. Yeah. But a bunch of us had showed up to this thing. And like, a bunch of us and some of my close friends are sitting around bored. Right. And we're like, well, what do we do? Like, so kind of got tired of like waiting for our turn on the ping pong table or like right. not really into basketball or whatever. Me and a friend of mine take it upon ourselves to like go to Walmart, grab right. like some like hacky sacks and some other stuff right. like to bring back because like we talked to some of our other friends like, yeah, it would be great if we had that. So we tore off to Walmart and came back. And my buddy that was driving, that I was with, he dressed like a goth, had like, right. He painted his fingernails black. He right. wore like big leather cuffs with yes. studs on his right. arms and things like that.
The scary guy at the church.
And we were into metal.
Of course, right.
Now at the time, what we were listening to...
I'm just curious, what metal?
It was Christian metal that we were listening to.
So you're talking about like Pantera? Like
No.
I mean, not Pantera. You're talking about, wait, like Mortification level? Or what? Like which bands? Do you remember?
I mean, so like this doesn't even qualify as metal in my right. book, but like one of the... what was it? And maybe... I don't know. I guess it depends on who you are and like what era or whatever. But there was a band called POD.
Oh yeah, POD. I know POD.
POD's not even metal.
Yeah, it's kind of like rap metal. Like it was alternative more.
Yeah, it's like Christian alternative hard rock.
POD.
Like, it's
so
not,
like Skillet.
It's not. But yeah, but
Grandma Train.
But there were bands along the lines of like in the vein of like POD and different things that actually were.
So you Christian roll up with the goth kid.
Pulls up.
Christian metal.
We come back from Walmart.
Yeah.
We come back from Walmart with extra snacks, extra games for people to play and have fun. And his stereo in his old Ford truck is blasting this music. And he did pull into the parking lot a little bit aggressively.
Which it sounds like a teenage boy. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a 17-year-old boy who lives in a small town.
Right.
And we come back and like we pass out some of the stuff and I'm sitting there like playing ping pong with a buddy of mine.
Right.
And this woman comes up to me and she's like goes, "You have to leave." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And she was like, "Yeah, you have to leave and you're not welcome back." And I was like, "I don't understand. Like, why?" And she like, and keep in mind, like I used to sing in the praise and worship band. Like I learned a lot. I learned a lot about vocal harmonies and singing.
Yeah.
Like actually doing that like in the church band and stuff on Sundays. That was one of the reasons that I enjoyed being there. Was like feeling safe in a performance environment, which is something I still struggle with today.
Right.
I blame a lot of that on We Like Sheep.
Right. But, oh, poor Grimy.
It's just fair.
Jeez.
Anyway, so yeah, she didn't really have a good explanation. It was just like, you guys left. Like, you guys left without permission and came back, and we don't know where you went. And you pulled up listening to that devil music and whatever, and we don't want you around here.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, how very Christian of you, ma'am. Have a nice day.
Wow.
And I went home, and I never went back.
Yeah. Gosh.
And
okay, so this is...
And so maybe I'm just going to give you the abridged version of the rest of it. After that, I pretended to go to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
I got dressed. I got up. I got in my car at church time. I went down the road to the Hardee's. I bought the local newspaper. I got myself a biscuit. I sat in the car, read the newspaper, ate a biscuit, drove around a little bit, and went back home. And I kept that up for probably 6 months before I just couldn't do it anymore. And I made my mother cry when I told her that I don't really believe in all this God stuff. The stuff that I'm seeing going around, like I don't know if I believe in this, but I'm not gonna participate in a big pile of hypocrisy just because. Yeah. Like, and it really hurt her feelings, and it really hurt our relationship for a long time.
Yeah, no, of course it did, and. Yeah, I think that's such a normal story. It's the kind of story I hear all the time. So, okay, you're like, I don't know if I believe any of this. And so but there's this period of time from, I don't know if I believe any of this, navigating through to, I believe there's God, universe, spirit, there's something in us that is like connected to that, or is that, going on these walks where your dog is, or the chickens are showing you those things. How did you get from all the hypocrisy and the trauma and all of that to where you are today? Like, what is that path?
So I'm trying to decide what I want to omit because it's not necessary, because it's not about me. Like, there's some things that really bug me.
Yeah.
But I don't.
But just know,
I don't
your
think they're
story
necessary
is what we're trying to tell here, and not somebody else's story.
So one of the things that I was doing around that time, for fun, like one of the extracurriculars that I really enjoyed, I was a band dork.
Okay, great.
But the extracurricular activity that I really enjoyed at that time was martial arts.
Okay, great. What kind?
So it was. Like, it was two kinds. It was meant to just be one kind. Some different things happened, and I'll get you there. So, this guy ran a Shotokan karate martial arts studio, but he very much wanted to have this Christian martial arts studio.
Okay.
Right. So I still to this day don't understand why he thought you could marry a self-defense discipline with turn the other cheek, but that was
right, fair.
But we're talking about like deep South Mississippi guy in and out a tiny Alabama town, and this is what we do. So we put a crucifix on the back of the gi with some guys dressed like karate guys kneeling and praying by it. That's what we do. And I really enjoyed that for a long time. And then so all within the same year, a couple of things happened. All right, so one thing that happened is my karate instructor's daughter had some troubles in her life and moved back home. Don't need to get into details. Don't really remember them. Not really that important. Second thing that happened was a person that used to study with him that went on to study several other disciplines and was way more qualified to teach martial arts than even my instructor had been had finally finished like some military service that he was doing and had come back home. And I think he was really mainly back in the region to like take care of an aging parent or something.
Right.
But he was a younger guy and very passionate about martial arts. And his primary discipline was not karate, but was actually Tang Soo Do, which is it's a Korean form that is like, it's not fair. It doesn't do it justice, but just imagine like Taekwondo, but instead of like flashy kicks, the emphasis is on maiming and insult to injury.
Okay.
Like, it's like, what is the quickest way to make sure that this person isn't going to hurt me anymore?
Okay. Yeah.
And that was fascinating and something different. And he was actually excited about like stepping in as like a sort of an adjunct, like instructor. And we were finally starting to learn something new. But what happened with, third thing is there's a new pastor at the Pentecostal church.
Okay. The one that kicked you out?
Yes.
Okay.
Same one that kicked me out happens to be like right across the street from the karate studio. And turns out that's where the guy who ran the karate studio goes to church.
Okay.
He gets all buddy with the head pastor of that church. And the children, the boy and girl, the guy was a year younger than me. His sister was like 2-3 years younger than me. They both start going to the karate classes.
Right.
And so during that time, I'm really enjoying the new instruction that I'm getting from this guy, Jason. I'm not really enjoying what's happening at the studio because what's happening is we spend we get an hour twice a week. And the first 25-30 minutes we're stretching. The next 15 minutes we're doing the same drills that we've done for the last 3 months. There hasn't been any new belt tests or any advancement or any new kata or any new anything. Not even really any sparring. And then the last 15 minutes, his daughter, who's come home, wants to sit us down and we sit around in a circle, crisscross applesauce, and talk about what Jesus has done for us in our life today.
Oh, wow.
And they give us Bible verses to memorize.
Okay.
And I start getting sick of it.
Yeah.
And I told the guy, I was like, look, like, I made enemies one night because we did this again, and they're like, what's the, recite the Bible verse I gave you. I'm like, no. And they're like, why? And they're like, because I didn't memorize it. And they're like, why? And it's like, because that's not why I pay you, and that's not why I'm here. And they're like, and they,
so that went over well.
And so like I had to have this conversation, and the guy, the pastor from across the street, was creepy. His kids were strange. I had a very bad feeling about that guy, even though I was gone. I was gone from the church before he was really even all that established in there, and it just like I left the karate studio because he was like, well, if you're not gonna do this and you're not gonna do that, then we don't want you to be here. Jeez. Because you're messing up what we're trying to do. And the homie Jason was like, screw that mess. Like, you and you, if you want to, I'll donate my time. You don't have to pay me anything. We'll organize a time and place to meet and we'll work on stuff, together. Wow. And we did that. So I still got like some martial arts training. I still had some, like, luckily, like, actually it's really funny. My mom pushed me to give that man a copy of The Purpose-Driven Life. She's like,
Which,
here, I want you to read this, and when you're done reading it, I want you to give it to Jason.
it's not the Bible, but it's a close second.
No. And he was, it's...
For people in the Southern Baptist world, man, that book. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
But Jason was just like, are you fucking serious right now? No. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with it? Like, she's going to be suspicious if I come back home with it. He's like, I don't care. Throw it in the garbage. Do whatever you want to do with it, but I'm not taking it. I'm just telling you right now, I'm not going to read that nonsense.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with it. Like, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't need that.
right.
And so it just kind of, but, yeah, like that, so that was a thing that I was doing for a while. Generally, I was just agnostic.
Right, yeah.
I was kind of, agnostic, borderline atheist.
Which is, I think, the trajectory for a lot of people. Well, they grow up in the church, they have trauma. It's like, in some ways, the for at least the stories that I hear, it's like there's two paths.
Mm-hmm.
One is things start to unravel, and I start picking apart piece by piece everything.
Right.
I figure out what I believe. The other sort of path is things start to unravel. I see whatever it is I see. I've been traumatized, whatever it is. And then you're like, all right, that's it.
Right.
We're done. And like, it's almost like cold turkey, right? We're going to let go of all of it. And then those people will build back. And sometimes it looks really similar. Like, I'm going to pick apart these little pieces, figure stuff out, and like add little bits back later. But normally, like there's this, some people, and I don't want to discount agnosticism and atheism. Some people, that's their thing forever. And that's their thing. I'm not judging that.
Man, I don't care what you believe as long as you're not a prick about it.
Right, exactly. But it sounds like for you had this agnostic, so atheist, whatever, and then you start.
So what I started
dipping your toe back in.
What
right?
I started doing, I'm still curious about the world. I'm still a young person. I'm still like, I don't know how fair it is to say that I'm reasonably intelligent. For where I grew up,
I think you're reasonably intelligent.
For where I grew up, like for what I had to compare myself to, and the people that everyone else compared me to, and the metrics that they used, I was pretty intelligent. Yeah. Now, and I owe a lot of that. I owe a lot of that to my mother, who just like berated me with flashcards before I went to bed every night. She was a second grade school teacher.
Of course, yeah.
She was a second grade school teacher, and she had me reading on a 12th grade level in 5th grade.
Yeah.
So the dangerous thing that I start doing as a boy who this doesn't really want to go to church, but wants to understand something about the world, wants to feel like something, like help me make sense of this mess. Yeah. And so I got really into philosophy, and in no particular order, for no particular reason, I just started finding different books. And I
remember the first one.
I remember
what took your philosophy virginity.
Okay, I can't say what was the first one. I can tell you the first one that really felt like a kick in the head, like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I'm really upset remembering this now because I don't know where that text is. And I don't know if I'll ever see it again in physical form.
Right.
But it was a thin little book that I found at a resale store at the Tanger Outlet Center in Foley, like the music and bookstore that used to be down there when I was a kid. And it was on the bargain bin rack or whatever, and it was a text. The author was I think it was Jayaram, Jayaram, Krishnamurti. And the name the text was, or the title was "Freedom from the Known."
Ooh, that's a title that would make me want to open it.
And like talking about like a 15, 16-year-old who doesn't like know what the fuck. It was magical the way that I remember it. And
what, do you remember, like, what was the thing?
It was very Eastern influence, like, and talking, they're very, it was kind of a mixture of Buddhist and Hindu principles, but it wasn't approached as like a religious text. It was a philosophical treatise on, like, and it talked about, what, let's like dig into what really can be known.
Oh, I love
and
this.
Like how, how influence and what you allow to influence yourself as a person, as a thinker, as a doer, like, like in, from some perspectives, no influence is good influence.
Yeah.
Or no influence is bad influence. Like, and it's not even necessarily the influence in particular or in specific.
Yeah.
It is how you allow this to change you and shape you, and what you choose to do with it. Like how when you metabolize these things that you're taking on, these ideas, and the rest of it, like just because group A or B says this is a good influence, or this is a good thing, or this is a good idea or a good principle, doesn't necessarily mean that once it's all kind of passed through your filter as an individual, that what comes out the other side is going to be net positive for the world. Like, and just challenging, like, the way that you think about what you know and what that means to you, and how it manifests in the world. And like, I would love to go back and read that again. I either lost it, or I want to say I loaned it to someone.
This is the story of all my best
it's one of those things. I loaned it to someone who is definitely going to give it back, and I have no idea where in the world they are right now. But if they don't still have it, I hope it's because they gave it to someone else. But like that one was like magical in a like a gateway book sense. For sure. Like, obviously, it hasn't stuck with me to the degree that I could really like articulate.
Well, no,
meaningful
that's
parts
how
of it.
a lot
But,
of
like,
that
I got into at first it was like some Plato stuff and some like what's the famous, like the Marcus Aurelius is it The Prince? Kafka's Metamorphosis, or just whatever, like some things that I've heard of, and was like, well, whatever. And then as I got older and I got into college and I'm 18, 19, I start reading Sartre, and I start reading Albert Camus, and I start reading Nietzsche, and I start reading all these existentialist guys, which really probably did me a disservice.
Right? Really? Why is that?
Because this depression thing, and it took a long time. It took a long time for me to really grasp, like, what a lot of these guys are saying is that life is fundamentally meaningless. And when I was younger and I'm reading these things, all that I took away from that was the surface value, like life is fundamentally meaningless. Like, it took a long time before I could acknowledge or access the beauty of the idea that is like, there's no specific meaning that's meant for you. The beauty is in that it means whatever the hell you want it to mean, and you get to make that for yourself. You get to decide what it is.
And that's
and pursue it.
Right.
But it's like to really like feel that in your chest is difficult. Especially like if you're not in a good place. It can be tough. But to round out how I get from, the way I was living my life at the time is, I don't believe, I don't not believe, I don't really care. It's not important. It's not a thing that can be known. So I'm not really going to bother myself with attempting to or trying to know it fully. I'm just going, it's obvious to me what's good and what's bad in terms of how I treat other people, how I live my life. I'm going to do my best to live my life in a way that I won't regret. And if it just so happens that after I pass, there's a lectern with a St. Peter and a pearly gates, or right. If it has to be this or that, if I just do my best to be the best human being that I can be, and what it all boils down to is I deserve to go to hell, then I'll go to hell. Right. I don't care. And then I had an out of body experience.
Tell me about that.
The beginnings of it were very much like the cliche that people describe. They talk about bright white light.
Where were you? Where did this happen?
I was with a friend of mine.
Okay.
I was in his he lived in a camper trailer at the time. We were both very broke, college kids.
For sure.
I think he was going to a community college at the time. I was not. I was just working.
Right.
But we were, in our early 20s, I think, or maybe 20. I don't really remember precisely what age we were.
Yeah, but you were in his
around
trailer,
that age, and we were close, and we had a friend who had access to some interesting substances.
Right. Yeah.
And I tried.
And you were partaking of a substance.
This was dimethyltryptamine. This is DMT.
Okay.
This is people will like to tell you that this is a chemical that naturally occurs in the human body, but only when you're born and when you die.
Right.
Your brain will make this substance when you're born and when you die. And that does kind of go some way towards explaining the phenomena of the white light and the,
right.
all this other kind of thing.
So you were experiencing this substance, and then what happens?
So I'd been attempting at this point in my life to I wanted to try astral projection or some other types of things. I really would love to try lucid dreaming, or it just doesn't I'm not disciplined enough, or it's just not right for me. I don't know. Fair. I couldn't tell you. I've never been able to make it work.
Yeah.
But I'd studied a lot of this stuff. It wasn't like I was going into this blind. So fair to say I had some preconceived notions about what might happen.
Right.
But the experience was, I just felt very, it was very, euphoric, typical sort of just you're very high, and at first. And I just kind of laid my head back on his couch, and I was just breathing deeply and just trying to kind of meditate a little bit. And then there was a the very low sort of humming vibration.
Yeah.
I could hear and I could feel, and it just very, very gradually got more and more and more and more intense. And as it did, I have my eyes closed, but in my mind's eye, I can see a column of just pure white light, and it coinciding with the hum, it is just very, very slowly and very, very gently and very, very gradually getting more and more and more intense. And it continued to do that for what for me felt like an hour, like just very, very slowly and gradually, just more and more and more and more and more intense. And then suddenly there was just a pop. And I was not like, what is I don't know. My ego, my right. consciousness, my spirit was not in my body anymore.
Yeah.
And
where was it?
I experienced my consciousness as a point in space.
Yeah.
I don't have arms anymore.
Fair. Yeah.
You know, like I'm a point in space.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, I just am.
Yeah.
Whatever I am, I just am at that point. And I was just kind of in a void. And I encountered a something.
Okay.
Like, I don't know.
A positive something or a negative something?
No, it was very much a positive something. And like, I don't really know how to put it into words. And but for what it's worth, what I felt like I saw was a maybe vaguely humanoid shaped entity. It wasn't so well defined, but it seemed to be just outlined in light. You call it what you want. Maybe it was an angel. Maybe it was this. Maybe it was that. I don't know. What I know is what I feel, because I don't really know, but it did not feel or seem like anything that was born of my, drug-addled consciousness.
Right.
Like I've experienced lots of different, drugs. Never before have I felt like, I met this thing.
Wait, this felt like an encounter.
This was an encounter with something. This was not like a hallucination that was made from my brain.
Right.
This was another entity.
Yeah.
And it was speaking more or less telepathically directly to my brain.
And what was it saying?
What I felt like it was telling me is like it wanted to show me something.
Ooh.
It felt like if we could if it was conversational,
right,
it would have been like, hi, you're not supposed to be here right now.
Right.
But like, if you want to go, like, there's something that I would like to show you. Okay. And I think you're really going to like it. Like, if you'd like to go, I can go show you. But like, I need your permission.
So when did you go?
I need your permission to take you there.
I mean, that's got to be a little scary, but also like curiosity.
And so like that was the feeling that I got. And I don't know, like, this sounds insane, but there's no better way to
sound insane.
There's no better way to explain it. So so like that was the sense that I got.
Yeah.
And I was so excited, and I really did want to go and find out. But I had this overwhelming feeling that, like, to see the thing that this thing wants to show me, like, I have to cross a certain threshold to see it. And at that moment, and what I knew at that time about, like, and what I read. And some of it's kooky and some of it's less so. I don't really know what to believe.
For sure.
But, the astral projection people and the out-of-body experience people say things like, well, if you're, like, your number one obstacle to this experience is fear.
Right.
And the moment that you're afraid, you're going to have a really hard time not being in your body.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get pulled back in. I was not scared about the experience that I was about to have. But what I wondered was, like, that was the moment that I wondered, where is my body? And the moment that I wondered, where's my body, I feel myself kind of looking down. And I have this perspective, and I'm looking from the perspective of, like, several hundred feet up in the air, and I can see my body, my physical body, from a bird's eye view through the roof of his camper, with my head laid back on the couch, and I'm watching myself, and at that moment I can hear myself breathing these deep breaths, and I'm like, okay, well, there's my body. My body's fine. And what did it is, you know, like, I didn't know. I didn't ask.
Right.
I don't know if I was allowed to, but I didn't really think too hard about it. I was like, I had a distinct feeling, like a honest, distinct, like, feeling that, like, whatever this thing wants to show me, like, what if it is so amazing that I don't want to come back?
Right.
And what if my physical body dies on my friend's couch and he has to explain that to someone?
Yeah.
And what happens to him?
Right.
If that turns out to be the case. And that became my fear. It wasn't about, like, me leaving the mortal coil and not coming back or not wanting to. It was like, what kind of position am I putting this dude in if my body just dies on his couch?
Right. And so does that mean you go back? Does that pull you back in?
So, like, you know, to this entity or whatever you want to call it, I just, like, was like, I really, really want to. I really, really want to. But I can't right now. And the thing, that consciousness, whatever, was like, okay, that's fine. And just like that, I was back in my body.
Wow.
And I kind of came to on the couch, and then I had all of the very typical psychedelic hallucination effect. Like, for a little while, there was a very kaleidoscopic silhouette of a pretty lady dancing on the wall. Like, typical kind of, like, hallucinogen type of effects. And I was just like, what was that?
Right. So that happens. Is that the thing that starts bringing you back towards spirituality?
So that's enough. That was enough for me to admit there's not nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't like I dove headlong back into any particular spiritual tradition.
Yeah.
But I respected them all a lot more after that.
But it sort of opened you up a little bit, right?
And just start paying more attention to the little things. Like, I mean, you can give anything meaning if you really try. Yeah. Like, you can do it.
Yeah.
But as a skeptic, you know, or you know, from the perspective of someone who is skeptical. Like, there's still things that will happen to you that that will make you think. And it was basically, that was the moment that I could no longer be atheist.
Yeah. So
I could still be agnostic if I wanted to. I don't really want to. I'd love to believe that there's magic in the world. I'd love to believe that there's somebody, you know, special out there who's just looking after me. I still don't really believe in the concept of, like, you know, heaven and hell as it was taught to me as a you know, Southern Baptist kid. I think that's something you make for yourself in your lifetime on Earth.
Yeah.
But I do kind of believe that I like the idea of, you know, reincarnation, like some of the Eastern traditions and the way that they describe how all that works.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful idea, and I think that it's you know, it's inspiring, and I like it in concept. Like, I like the challenge to say, you know, what I want us to be. I want to be so good in this lifetime that I don't have to come back here and repeat this test.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, it's it's so frustrating, but we're all being tested by one thing or another at all times, and we can take our sweet time.
Yeah.
And we don't ever have to pass that test if we don't want to. But the only thing I'm assured of is as soon as we do, there's going to be a bigger, more important, more frustrating test. And that's just going to be the new thing. So I would really love it if whatever this experience that my soul is having right now, if I didn't have to do this again, that'd be a win in my book. Like if somebody, you know, if I got to the other side and we had to like review the Excel spreadsheet that was my deeds and works, and they said, you know what, you get to go to a different universe next time. Like, hey.
So, you know, it's interesting hearing your story because your story starts like a lot of people, especially in the rural areas, especially in the rural South. And then you have these like little events of like pushing you away. And then it's like it feels like there's like it's like a process that's punctuated by moments for you.
Well,
you know that, and so like if we go forward and like we're in a moment right now, I wonder what kind of moments are in the future, like especially with the meditation piece and the chickens and the dog. Like I don't know, it makes me excited to imagine what happens for you where when you're moving from this point and like with this freedom to believe whatever it is you've got, but like I don't know, there's part of me that just wants to see like the nature and the meditation sort of like going so much deeper for you. Right. You know?
Well, so maybe the most important, or not the most important, but the last, you know, or most recent milestone in that journey that we haven't covered is, you know, I've met this wonderful partner that I have, and I met them before I had any idea that they were involved with the church. You know, I remember the first time I met them, the first thing I said to them was like, "Oh, hey, I love your hat," and she was wearing a baseball cap, green baseball cap with white embroidered letters that said, "You are on native land." And I was like, this person is cool. Yeah. This person is cool. Yeah. I want to get to know them. And, you know, we talked, you know, we frequented the same spot a lot of the time. And I remember one day, she was talking to someone else. And it was one of those very surface level, what do you do conversations. Yeah. And I had no idea. And they said, you know, well, like, what are you in school for? What are you doing? And she started talking about, you know, her work in the church. And I was just like, wait, this person, what? Right. And so
you're describing my whole life
my ears perk up and I start to listen. Yeah. And what she says, and she's not talking to me, she's talking to someone else. And she said, you know, you can say what you want to about the church, but there are good people in the church. There's good community in the church. There are good things about the church. If you find the right church, it's not for everybody, but it can be. And there are a lot of people who don't feel safe, who don't feel seen, who don't feel affirmed, who don't feel welcome. And have made it my mission to create spaces for people like that.
Oh my God.
And I almost burst into tears.
Right, of course.
And I had to tell her, and this was years before.
Yeah.
You know, we're an item now, but this was years before we dated, and I was like, I just need you to know that, like, I was very shocked by that, and I think that's got to be like one of the coolest things I've ever heard. Like one of the best. Like that's a mission. Like that you're like, that is. I'm speechless, about that, and I knew like I want to be friends with this person. I want to be really good friends with this person, and since then I've kind of I've spent some time in the Methodist church, and I'm like, okay, so not everybody's insane all the time,
right,
about all the things.
Yeah.
Don't know why that's one of the ones I never tried. Of all the things that I tried, that was never one of them. I'm not sure why, but it just. And
I love the way she said that, because that's actually what this community is about. This thing that we call not church, and it's this place where people talk about crazy stuff, like out of body experiences, but also post memes and are there for each other. And I know that your partner is actually part of that community, which is really wonderful. And I feel like, that's something that I just wish I want everybody to be able to be there. And so if that's something you're interested in, the way that you do that is you go to patreon.com/skepticpastor. It's $3 a month. It's $3 a month because we don't ask you to give us a percentage of your income, because that doesn't exist in the Bible or anything like that, but it's pay for what you get. So if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, just stop paying. It's fine. But it is a pretty beautiful place. And also, if you're listening to this podcast, wherever you listen to this, if you can give us all the stars, actually post some text that says this thing doesn't suck, that would be amazing. And Rob, thank you so much. This was amazing. Can I add one thing? Add it. Go for it. Last word. There was a book that I read recently that really changed the way I felt about Jesus in a positive way. Okay. And that was a book called Zealot by Reza Aslan. Okay, that's a great book. I think it's worth reading. It's about who was the real Jesus of Nazareth. Yeah. And he's even more my hero now than ever before. So that's awesome. Give it a read if you're into that. All right, Zealot. That's it. Last word. Thanks, Rob. Thank you. That's it. That's the podcast. Shout out to the Choir Network, to Patheos, to Matthew and Keith, who make everything happen. Now, get out of here. Go do something to make the world a better place. Okay? We'll see you next time.